Last time I preached here, my wife said, "How come you stood over on the side?" So I'm going to surprise her and be in the middle this time. Equal opportunity. The basis for our message today is that powerful gospel lesson we heard, especially words like these. About the day and hour, no one knows. For as the days of Noah were, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. And understand this, if the owner of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake, would not have let his house be broken into. The Son of Man is coming. Keep awake, therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. Therefore, you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour. We could say that Jesus' message to his followers then and now is to expect the unexpected. As I tried to tell the children, a lot of things you can put on the calendar. Yeah, pretty good chance it's going to happen. You plan diligently, have your ducks in a row, as they say. But so much in our world cannot be planned. It may be underway already in exhilarating forms. It may be shocking and sudden, like the 9/11 attack on our Twin Towers and other significant places. You can't put that on the calendar. You don't know what's coming. Thanksgiving Day, my family came over, including several of my 3 grandchildren, and I had a nice visit with their iPads and smartphones. I even had a few words with them. But most of the time while they were there, they weren't there, if you know what I mean. So I, instead of fighting it, I joined it. I sidled up to my granddaughter while she's working with her iPad and just asked her to show me what it does and what it does. And I learned a little about her interests and values, and she even halfway talked me into getting her a new laptop for Christmas. My wife didn't like that idea so much when she found out about it, so we'll have to negotiate that one. But, you know, when this began, that wasn't your dad's Thanksgiving. It wasn't my Thanksgiving. It's not the one some of you remember, that iconic Thanksgiving picture. I forget the artist's name. I think it made the cover of Time magazine. You know, the patriarch, Norman Rockwell. Thank you. I've even been to his museum, so great stuff. But you got the patriarch of that Anglo-Saxon family, gray hair with these pink-cheeked people, all white, of course, 3 generations, all still married, and they're gathered around this turkey with this lavish table of foods and this beautiful gold turkey about to be carved. That's rare now, friends. That's really, really rare. And what's not rare is the rapidity of change that's going on. A student of 2000, Thomas Friedman, pointed out that in the year 2007, the iPhone was introduced. Remember that? Silicon chips, incredible software, servers, storage capacities, connectivity, and networks that we could never dream of, could never put on the calendar. And suddenly we're living in that world of connectivity. I have a better chance of a conversation with my grandchildren if I just get on Facebook with them than inviting them to my house. And that change is accelerating in ways that we can't put on the calendar. All we know is happening, and it's happening really fast. We don't know what's coming. And the possibilities are enormous for humanizing humanity, and the possibilities are as fatal as ISIS, using this technology to call forth terrorists to destroy those whom they call the enemy, infidels, people who worship the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It can go either way, friends, and it usually does. And then there's a second accelerated change going on. It's called globalization. Very controversial. But you can't fool me. You guys shop in China. Anyone here been to Walmart lately? Raise your hand. Admit it. Okay. Some of you shop in China. You don't have to go to Walmart to find China labels on things. Globalization is here, friends, and it's not going away. Whether we like it or not, the world is now a marketplace for both labor and products and services. And if I call for help with a computer glitch, I'm going to hear someone over in India who I can't even understand. That's the reality. And it's accelerating. We don't know where it's going to end. And its blessings will be real just as well as some horrific disruptions and downside effects. It's coming, and it's accelerating. And then one that's even still more controversial. I'll call it climate change. Some of you may not believe in it, but let me say 90% of the world's climatologists do. The U.S. military does. They're preparing for it. Major corporations do. They're preparing for it. So like it or not, climate change and the shrinking of biodiversity on the planet is happening, and it's accelerating. That means fewer and fewer animal varieties, fewer and fewer plant varieties are going to be around. Even now, rainforests are being decimated for quick buck profit off of cattle and other kinds of rapid growing grain with devastating impacts on the health of the planet. And it's accelerating. It's accelerating. I hope I've scared you a little bit, because it's nothing like what Jesus is saying. If you knew the thief was about to break in, you would have stayed awake, prevented it. The people in Noah's day knew the flood was coming. They had built an ark too. Instead, the whole world then was engulfed by this environmental disruption called the flood. And only those who were in tune with God survived. Now, in recent years, you've probably heard of that school of Christian thought. It's kind of known as the Left Behind. You all heard of the Left Behind stuff? It's a growth industry, or it has been. A couple of authors took select verses of the Bible, particularly the New Testament, apocalyptic verses. That's a genre of literature that speaks in big, strong, phantasmic metaphors about the end times. And they link these together for an end time scenario and take it all literally. And they come up with an end time scenario in which the day of the Lord comes, the true believers are raptured away to reign forever with the Lord, and all the evildoers and unbelievers are incinerated. They were left behind. Well, there's an element of truth in that, but there are two problems with it. One is taking literally apocalyptic language. You don't do that any more than you take a poem and take it literally. You read it for what it is. Poetry that has drama, metaphor, symbol. So it is with apocalyptic literature. But even more importantly, their scenario ignores context. Context. Example, the gospel lesson today, Jesus says this: two will be left in the field, one will be taken, one left. You know, a couple of construction workers out there. Suddenly One's called out and the other's left behind. Two women grinding meal together. One will be taken, one left. Now, let's say a couple of women working behind the counter at Burger King. Suddenly, one's called out, the other's left. What's the context here? The context is this: for as in the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. As in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark. Hey, that wasn't the good thing. That wasn't a good thing. Those left behind, in fact, were the survivors. They were prepared. They had an ark. It's the ones that were taken that were the unlucky ones. These left-behinders don't read the text in context. Again, understand this: if the owner of the house had known what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake, would not let a house be broken into. That's not good news. You know? The good news is the person who's awake, who prevents the robbery from happening. The guy who has everything taken is the unlucky one. So what am I trying to say here? What I'm saying is quite simple. There are things you don't put on the calendar. Least of all, you don't put end-time scenarios on the calendar. And you certainly don't take apocalyptic language, make it literal, and think you've got a series of events that can be lined up and predicted. No. Jesus says, expect the unexpected. Expect that bad things are happening and will happening, and some of these things are underway now. They're exhilarating really, really fast. But here's the good news. The Son of Man is coming. Therefore, you also must be ready. The Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour. Like a thief in the night. Unexpected. So who is this Son of Man? In the book of Daniel, we read this. The book of Daniel is a series of dreams, as Daniel was in the service of the greatest empire of his day. And in his dreams, he reports to the emperor, you know, all these emperors come and go. They have feet of clay. Most of them are symbolized by predatory beasts, you know, like the Russian bear, tigers, lions. Even the eagle is kind of a predatory bird, isn't he? But they have their day. But in the end, this is what happens. As I watched, I saw one like unto a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven, and he came to the Ancient One, the Eternal, was presented before him. To him was given dominion and glory and kingship, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that shall not pass away, and his kingship is one that shall never be destroyed. The predatory ones that are inhuman and dehumanizing, and boy, we could name a few. Start with the little guys, Fidel Castro. How did he get power? First, you pull out all the predatory stuff you have at your command. Blast it on the population you would control. And then you send out your troops and your military, and you look over the population. Okay? You look over the population, and you see someone who might be useful to you in your new governance. You see someone who might be helpful to you. You see someone's property who might fit your plan, and you take it. What is taken? is left behind. Who's the lucky one? It's the one left behind. He sees someone who might have a political point of view that is different. Might be a spy, might be a subversive, might be anti-revolutionary. Take him. Put in prison, executed. The lucky one is left behind. Do you get it? You see how this works? It's about living in a state of readiness, expectancy. No calendars for this. Just the prayer, thy kingdom come. If we only could get inside of the spirit of this prayer, we'd realize we are praying for nothing less that you and I be agents of the reign of God, that you be sons and daughters of this Father, that you be heirs to this Spirit, to this power to turn swords into plowshares, missiles into medical implements, that you and I be the reconcilers and the peacemakers, those who break bread and wait for miracles to happen through generosity in a world where way too many people suffer for lack of daily bread. We're those people. We're the ones called to fulfill on earth that mandate to love neighbor as ourselves, even as Christ has loved us, on earth as in heaven. And for that kind of reality, Jesus surrendered his life, paid the ultimate price, and invites us today into a blood covenant of the forgiven, in which the law of God is written into our hearts, not on tablets of stone, so that we become the message. We become the wisdom. We become the way, the truth, and the life in our world. That's our calling, to live as the people of hope and expectancy in a world that is clueless and in fantasy about what may come. And Jesus has already told us, expect the unexpected. Live in hope, for the Son of Man is coming.